and I'm really excited to welcome a very smart woman back to the show. She sat behind this here microphone for 3 shows while I was on vacation. You can hear her regularly on the Progress Channel hosting as well. She's the founder and CEO of, how do I say it? Avicenna.
Avicenna, there we go.
Which is Avicenna Strategy, a public affairs firm, works with nonprofits and foundations. What did you do in the Obama? Nayyera Hawk, everybody. What did you do in the Obama administration? What did you do?
A couple of things. So I actually came in. I was early primaries for Obama out in the Southwest, and then hey, we won. It was pretty cool.
Wait, you volunteered on the campaign?
Oh, no, I worked on the campaign.
Worked on the campaign? What was your job?
I was the director of communications for all of the Western states.
And how much interaction did you have with the man?
So in big groups, a lot. My first one-on-one with him was me walking into the office on a Sunday because I'd left my work BlackBerry there, and I'm wearing track pants, a sweatshirt, and I turn a corner really quickly, and I spill coffee, and I look up, and I said, "Oh, excuse me, Senator." And he goes, "Carry on, carry on." That's how I met. That's like officially how I met him.
And that was like circa 2007?
Yeah. Yeah, I spilled coffee on the dude. That's how I met him.
Oh, that's hilarious. I want to know.
Yeah, so then of course I'm like embarrassed in like the next 4 or 5 months of like trying to like not catch his notice as, oh yeah, that girl who spilled coffee on me.
I literally want to fill up our conversation now with every interaction you had with Obama, but I'm not going to do that to you. What did you think of?
So then officially I went into government, always working in the communications, making sure people understood what the policies were, and helping on the flip side help the policy people understand what people wanted, because there's a massive disconnect. But policy people who think they know what's best, and it's a little bit devoid of the human experience.
That's a great point to unpack. Oh my goodness, that's very interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I did that at the Treasury Department, at State Department as a diplomat for many years. Spent 5 years overseas.
What does that mean?
As a diplomat?
Yeah, like I always think of a diplomat as only the ambassador, but you're considered a diplomat if you work.
Yep. If you work at the State Department and you're representing America overseas and you carry a diplomatic passport, you are a diplomat. And I think it's a critical point for people to understand when they're working in that capacity, because at every level you are there and you represent the American public. You're not there representing yourself or your self-interest just because it's a job. Your whole purpose, and that's why you're being flown out.
Your behavior, no dick pics for that guy. That'll destroy America's image.
Yeah,
you got to be very careful with every move you make.
And then my job on top of that was public diplomacy. So I used to go there to places like Pakistan and talk about, this is why we have the counterterrorism policies we do, and there's civilian casualties. How do we do this better? Let's talk about the problems we're trying to solve here with extremists, and you tell me if you can come up with a better solution than targeted drone strikes. It was not fun and not pleasant all the time, but it was really necessary and important to do.
Do you speak other languages?
I do, and so I use that skill really to serve America in London, the Middle East, and South Asia.
You speak British?
I speak Urdu. I speak Urdu and Hindi.
You speak both? Did I know that?
It's like saying you speak Spanish and Italian. Like, if you know how to do the difference, you can do the difference, but you have to kind of study it. But otherwise, it's a very natural switch.
Whatever. I studied Spanish for 6 years and then learned Italian because my wife's family, and I don't speak. I mean, you downplay it. It's a very impressive quality when people can do that. Well, I should have like asked you all these questions the day before you first sat behind the microphone hosting the show while I was gone, because you're such a fascinating and brilliant woman, and it's so great. I love the answers to the questions you give me. I have no idea about those jobs and what they require. But how did it go here?
Thank you. I had a ton of fun. Listen, you guys have a really good team that takes care of you and really made sure that I was not stupid when I was behind the mic. I think that's always my, not even fear of being stupid, but like just being like, duh. So I was very impressed by how sharp and quick you are. Mutual congratulations over here. That and I didn't break your show. That was my
no. People loved you. People loved you. But Chris, did you not know that Nayyera spoke Urdu? Because you could have had a conversation.
Yeah, well, I try and just deal with her on a one-to-one basis,
right?
And focus more on her policy.
And notice
positions.
he said, notice he did say, "Deal with me." It was kind of dealing with me. Sorry, what's happening? And we're doing what next?
Deal with it.
What?
Well, I'm so glad to have you that you were here in New York doing it, and I heard a lot of great things. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, and I know, Hannah and Chris are the best. Did you get any FaceTime with the intern? Did you? Yeah.
Yes.
Declan.
Intern Declan, actually, they used me as his guinea pig to let him play with the board a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah,
right. That's right. That's right. And that went well. There weren't really major technical issues. It's hard enough to sit in.
It was great, but what was really great about Declan and like interns who are just upbeat and excited is so critical, because I feel like all of us walk around jaded in the workplace.
Yeah.
So he's sitting behind the glass, looking at me, and I'm like saying stuff and coming up with ideas, and he's just like,
He was listening. He doesn't listen to the show when I'm hosting. That's great.
No, not only listening, he was totally giving me the verbal, the visual feedback and cues.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, nodding his head, Nayyera, keep going.
He's a real good guy. And what do you think of that? Real quick on this this question. I don't get much FaceTime, and I think most of us don't. With people, I'm 43, so I don't spend time with 20-year-olds. And the last 3 days, I've been driving him home because he lives near me, and I'm learning so much from him. He's really fascinating. Do you ever?
You know what's really fascinating? How quickly we get out of touch. What happens?
Yes. Well, because technology has moved fast. I bet you that, probably always the case. But do you, for any reason in your life, spend a lot of time with, people in their early 20s, quality time, private?
No, I know. And I'm still trying to understand this whole YouTube thing. I know that YouTube is a time suck and a rabbit hole, but I don't get why. And I see these things of YouTube star has stunt wedding and gets paid $bajillion. I'm like, why? How does this happen?
If it makes you feel any better, I don't really get that.
Yeah, but
I barely do Twitter.
Declan's not typical 20-year-old. He's really like an 80-year-old, according to even your own friends, right?
Yeah, my friends all make fun of me saying I'm like a 40-year-old man in the shell of a 20-year-old man because
he dresses like a Best Buy manager.
I will say that, and I feel like the younger generation kids these days get a really bad rap for, frankly, stuff that older generations screwed them over when it comes to student loans and telling them you need to go to college, and by the way, that'll be your answer to everything, and you come out not only with massive debt but not a job that can pay that debt. And according to all the statistics, Declan's generation is actually working more hours than the boomers and any of us for less pay ever. I'm like, that says a lot. It's actually a hard-working group of people who frankly understand the screens better than we do.
The thing is, we also get lumped in with millennials a lot. People call me a millennial all the time, and that's not who I am. I'm a Gen Z. I'm a different generation. So
people first of all,
I'm trying to help you out here. Do not hate on millennials.
I'm not hating on millennials.
She's
at all.
a millennial.
I know.
I'm trying to help you out.
I know. I was not disparaging.
Why do you hate me, Declan?
But just old people like to go after millennials.
Old people do.
Old people
I
like to
agree
go
with
after
that.
millennials. I was not disparaging millennials.
People have been complaining about millennials for so long that millennial, the oldest millennial range is almost 40, and the youngest millennial is in their mid to late 20s.
Yeah,
that's me.
Yeah, Declan's generation are the real enemies. My generation and millennials are going to band together, and we're going to be the boomers to Declan's wild, untamed youth.
This is what Declan just did, right?
Yeah,
it's and I'm going to bring it back to the debate.
Yeah.
Cory Booker, Tulsi Gabbard attacks Kamala, and then Kamala just redirects to Biden. I get it. Everybody wants to hate on millennials. But, trying to help you out here.
All right, let's get to the debate last night. I don't even know if Hannah told you specifically what I want to talk about, but obviously I want to talk with you about the debate, but there's a couple of other things. I mean, we could talk with Nayyera about pretty much anything. She's brilliant.
I also, at some point, and maybe we do this when I see you in person, I want to talk about Stranger Things.
Oh, I can't. I don't watch it.
Oh.
Well, you just made an assumption.
Cancel the booking.
Ooh.
Why would you make the assumption that I watched that show?
It's just such a great show, and I just felt like we were copacetic on liking some of the same things. And also both late to the game because I'm only on season 2.
I bet we aren't. Name another show you watch.
I'm excited about Mindhunter coming back.
No. I watch Handmaids with my wife.
I can't. Too much real. Too much real. Can't do it.
Yep, I hear you.
But I would like it, yes. I'm sure if I decided to delve into the dark side and really put my brain there, I would like that show.
All right, then last one. Let's see if we relate on this. What's your most recent YouTube rabbit hole video?
Oh, my God. The kid unwrapping stuff.
A kid unwrapping stuff?
Well, the kid who
I was
does-
trying to
kid who does the
understand,
toys?
and like I realized in trying to understand it, I'd watched like an hour and a half of kids unwrapping shit.
I hope that's true. I hope you're not exaggerating. I hope that
No,
Nayyera.
I'm 100%. I'm literally, then I'm like, wait. I've got a kid. Can
Right.
I do this with this kid? He's a cute one.
Yeah.
Can I monetize this?
Yeah.
So I'm like, somehow, and in all of this, like, thinking I'm gaming the system because I'm trying to understand it and, like, use it for my benefit, they still got me to watch an hour and fucking half.
Yeah. How seriously did you think about filming your kid opening something? How old's your son?
I think about filming my kid all the time,
Yeah.
again, to pay for college and monetize.
Yeah, sure. All right, let's talk about the debate last night and everything surrounding the debate last night. First of all, my hot take was that because of the format, there was so much bashing, and the winner last night was Donald Trump. I hear that from a lot of people. Do you agree with that?
I agree, and that this is there's two parts to that I wanted to dig in with you and get your take on. I get that it's a competition and they have to attack it to some degree, have to show differences between themselves, but that doesn't mean you have to attack. What I liked about the debates that first time around with MSNBC, I believe it was, and they said, all right, who here believes that healthcare is a right and there should be a public version of it? And everybody raised their hand. There was no level setting in this debate of how pretty much everybody on stage is already a better option than Donald Trump, and actually far more closer to each other than they ever would be to Donald Trump. So I think that was a disservice to viewers and listeners trying to understand how this political spectrum thing is working. And then the second part is that the idea that somehow we need to be running against Obama or like critiquing Obama on what he did and, oh, we're going to do better than Obama. I'm like, guys, Republicans spent 30 years building up Reagan, and he was not the best, but they spent 30 years building him up. We had an 8-year president. Like, stop killing
Not only
ourselves
that,
with
how about
party.
this? That's a great point. And one of the things that Reagan did, was this his rule? Was he created a rule where you never are to speak ill of other Republicans. Wasn't that Reagan?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
like,
not, that's a
oh,
shit rule, by the way, but still.
It is. I mean, like, and I think especially now it's a shit rule when there's just stuff that is just above and beyond being just like human beings and beyond policy. It's about, no, are you a decent human being or not? Are you racist or not? But you just, and they talk about in the policies here, like, yeah, guys, like, chill out for a second. I grew up in a family where, like, listen, you keep the family stuff in the family. You don't go out and spill it out in the street.
I mean, I've heard you trash your family.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, I quickly reversed that once I went to high school, but at least we tried.
KP in Tampa, you're on the air right now. Caller for Nayyera Hawk. Go ahead, KP.
Hey, Pete, I just want to thank your guest. She did a great job. And the one thing I liked about it, I like her voice, and I like the sense of conviction she has when she says things. Like, she restates it in facts and then relates.
Yeah, I met her. I agree with you. I met her when we were both on the panel for Real Time, and it was uncomfortable because her sense of conviction was so much more confident and educated than mine, but I still felt like I needed to give mine. But it was like, why am I here? Why did you don't need me? But did you?
You were the pretty face at the table, Pete.
No, Andrew Ross Sorkin was there. He's beautiful. Looks like a beautiful lady. But did you miss me, KP, at all with Nayyera?
Well, I'll tell you.
No.
Well, one thing I wanted to tell you, the interaction between her and Chris was great. I mean, it was like they worked together forever.
Yeah,
but
really
then
felt
you
a
have
bond.
To remember, Pete.
That's generally
you have
missing.
to remember, Pete. You're always saying, a lot of people told me, believe me, okay? And
You're killing me,
just
KP.
so
That was
much
way
more
too on
refreshing
point.
from
You
that.
can't. These good Donald Trump impressions are really creepy.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of them. KP, thank you. That's kind of you to say. I'm glad
Thank you, KP. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Nayyera's awesome, and she probably would have been sitting in for me earlier had I knew she'd be able to come to New York. And of course, you come here. Your parents are still here. You grew up here, so
I did.
So
and
psyched it worked out.
They're still like the down south part of New York on Staten Island, which is an entirely different universe.
Yeah, we should talk about that at some other point. All right, what do you So getting back to both the debates, I'm just gonna, because you're so good, I'm just gonna fire a couple names at you. How does that sound?
Okay.
All right.
Cool,
so Marianne Williamson. Be honest.
Wonderful for people who are just looking for the entertainment value. Actually, terrible for really actual policy, right? Like, she's an anti-vaxxer.
Is she an anti-vaxxer? I don't think that's fair. I don't know. I've been looking, but I have bias. I like her and know her, but I've been reading a lot of things.
and we talked about it. I would love for Marianne Williamson to be like the guru in chief, right? She just comes through, and Chris said this.
Right.
Let her come in and do that cleansing of the Oval Office that needs to happen.
Just light up some sage.
Let her burn, exactly.
Some
Let her burn the sage.
Some Palo Santo.
She'd be great for that. But I'm also, I come from that policy universe, so I think I understand some of what's broken on that side, and I don't think she'd get it.
I think she does get policy. As
I
well
think
as almost
the
everybody
idea
up
that
there.
policy should fundamentally be grounded in the human experience, right? Like, what does this mean for actual human beings?
Right.
And that was a nice reminder for everyone on stage to have and everybody in the audience to have.
Okay, I interrupted you when you said anti-vax. Was there another one or two about her?
Yeah, it's the lack of experience there, right? Or like just the irrelevance. Like I think she'd be a great guru and spiritual muckety-muck, but like that's not what I'm looking for president.
What about the fact that I had a caller yesterday, and I hear this a lot. We had a caller yesterday, Norma listens. I don't know if Norma called when you were hosting, but she's a big Trump supporter, and she said she really liked Marianne Williamson. And there's a category of Americans that really like people who have never been politicians, who have never worked in government at any level. What do you say to that general opinion that they hate government and anybody who has any government experience so much that they want complete outsiders who have never served at any level?
Yeah, listen, I think fresh perspective is always important, and there's a variety of experiences that you can have with government to bring that fresh perspective. However, when it comes to having expertise, I would rather the doctor with the best certification, best training, and most experience working on me than the guy who just decided to show up and say, I can do that better.
So you think that Ben Carson is a great person to be Secretary of HUD because he's a surgeon?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like, really, guy? Like, what's your, like, how, oh, I get it, because you're black, so you're supposed to understand how public housing? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Pete Buttigieg.
Oh, like him a lot. I think it's fascinating that America could potentially get behind a gay man the way they got behind a black president, like things that I just didn't think were possible. I think the fact that he's a small town mayor actually is a good thing because he's been very closely connected to people. Love his service overseas. He talks like a thoughtful human being. I'm a little over the whole, he speaks 20 languages and plays 20 instruments and he's this like brilliant savant. I'm like, no, he's not, but okay.
He's a brilliant savant.
I mean,
if he's not, you are too. I mean, like I think he is. I think he's a brilliant savant. Like who's not? Too much.
I will say Barack Obama was a brilliant savant.
Why?
So
Why was he more of a brilliant savant than a Buttigieg? Like compare their intellects.
Yeah, and some of this comes down to, I guess, the credentialing of it all, right? Like Barack Obama legitimately could be arguing and getting a position on the Supreme Court because of his legal expertise and intelligence on that. Like he could be, but he wasn't the best retail shaking hands guy, right? That wasn't his strength.
Right, but we're talking about
and so I think I'm reacting to the idea that like, Pete Buttigieg, he's the next Obama. I'm like, they're different. They're different creatures. They're different creatures. Each have their own value.
Yeah. Who do you like the least? That is in the current.
Oh, Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, why?
For so many reasons.
Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead. Oh.
So on the national security and foreign policy, somebody who has served in uniform should know better than to be meeting with dictators. And in this interview with Anderson Cooper yesterday, still could not say that what Assad has done to the Syrian people in bombing them, in murdering his own people, was a bad thing.
Why? What is that about? What do you?
I don't understand it. She also, by the way, is totally into the Russian stuff. Like, and I mean, not in the way that we would want it to be, but in the way that Donald Trump is. Huge fan of Putin. Has met with him.
Come on, huge fan of Putin.
Dude,
really?
You should look this stuff up.
I am. I have really not looked that far into.
This is why. This is the danger of having like everybody who decides to run on a debate stage. It kind of flattens the expertise, and it highlights some really interesting things on how people can connect with humans and how. Like I loved Andrew Yang's closing statement, for example. Like very real, very human. Andrew highlighted like, yeah, you know what? My wife is at home right now raising an autistic child, and that doesn't count as work, and it's the hardest, most important job she'll probably ever do.
Yep.
I'm like, yes, acknowledge that. That's awesome. Tulsi Gabbard, though, that works to her advantage in a really devastating way, I think, for all of us, because now the Trump Fox folks are all into her. They're trying to run her as that Jill. She's the person probably most likely to pull a Jill Stein and pull away Democratic votes and run as an independent candidate. So I find her to be dangerous when it comes to foreign policy and national security. She's dangerous to LGBT folks. She worked for 2 organizations that believed in conversion therapy.
Is she a very religious person? I thought she was Hindu.
She's a Hindu. This is then the third one. She's part of, we talked about Prime Minister Modi, and who literally was not allowed to have a visa to the United States because of war crimes that he committed in his own country. Ran as a populist and as a nationalist. She is a Modi supporter, and so she's very much in line with the idea that you should have a nationalist, populist, everybody behaving one way kind of country. Again, no idea why she's a Democrat, other than to pull votes away from Democrats.
What I'm hearing is that she's far too thoughtful or generous to some pretty bad people. But I also heard about Tulsi Gabbard.
Which is also what Donald Trump does.
Right, exactly. What I also heard about Tulsi Gabbard is that something about her being against allowing refugees from Iraq and Syria. Do you know anything about that?
Same thing. Again, like
is that true?
Really,
that's
She's
shameful.
On national security policy, she's very in line with Donald Trump. Because I'm like, why? You're not a Democrat. All you're doing is screwing with people who aren't tracking the stuff in crazy detail the way I am, and being like, oh, she actually could be viable. I like her. Let me vote for her. It's like, guys, she is the Jill Stein in all of this.
Joe Biden. Do you know him?
I do, and I love Joe Biden as a human being. I would have no problem. I never got a hug or a kiss for him. I totally would have taken it. There's a point when I, on West Exec Avenue, had coordinated with 2 or 3 of his staffers to be like, hey, when he comes out here, I need to know so I can go up to him and be like, hey, will you be my grandpa? Because I don't have one, and I never had one here in the U.S., so I would love this. And
you wanted to recruit him as granddad. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All nice things. Here it comes.
Don't want him to be president. I want him to be like America's granddad, or like go overseas and like negotiate out those hostages and yuck it up. But like, do
you think anybody's been unfair to him?
If you're in the theory that we shouldn't be attacking each other as Democrats, then you could say it's unfair.
Okay.
But the critiques of the crime bill, of what he did in the 80s and 90s, his quote unquote evolution, but not really. He's not with it. He's just not with it to say, like, I mean, he thinks he's very bright and very talented, but he was always that I don't want big dramatic change person. And I think this is a big dramatic change election. That's what people want on both sides of the aisle.
Talking to the brilliant Nayyera Hawk. I hope you don't mind me just throwing names at you. It makes my job easier, but I just
let's do it. It's actually helping me be like, how do I really feel about these
things? Okay. Let's go to Bernie then.
Oh, I mean, listen, nobody would be talking for Medicare for all. Nobody would have felt comfortable raising their hand saying, yep, public option health care, or health care is a right, if it hadn't been for Bernie Sanders in the 2016 election. I mean, he fundamentally changed the conversation. There's a whole generation that has come up now after him. We know the AOCs. It's given, I think, a lot of populist momentum to folks like Elizabeth Warren.
Sure.
But I mentioned those two because I think they deliver and come across better. When we talk about the who's likable and who's not conversation, Bernie doesn't win. It's shock. It's actually like that's a conversation.
Why does it matter? I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Why does it matter that they're, quote, likable?
It may not matter to me, again, because I'm a policy nerd,
right.
But I think it's important to people to feel that they trust who's representing them. And for many people, trust is mixed up with liking them.
It's a really good point, but it's also,
not the best.
Well, no, because I'm with you. Policy matters the most to me, and implementing that policy is what really has an effect on people. But I also, I think.
But that's assuming that I'm saying that that's only the likability that works against Bernie. I don't think Bernie has, for those who are the policy nerds, and this is why I think Elizabeth Warren is gaining advantage, because she's in the spirit of where Bernie is coming from, of we need to look at these systems and change them, but she has very clearly said how. And Bernie, like hers is like the how on every single thing.
How about, this is my answer to the likability question. I will never forget a number of moments after tragedies where presidents responded. But just to go to recent history, you could even talk about George W. Bush after 9/11 or other things. We can maybe split some hairs there. But Barack Obama, after the Arizona shooting and the South Carolina church shooting, was
I needed that.
the leader we needed in that moment. And those tragedies are inevitable, whether they be natural disasters or human, caused. You need a leader at every level in your organization, much less your government, that can bring solace, that can give a hug, that can give a speech. And I just, I don't see Bernie doing that. I've said this.
And here's the thing. We have that already in Donald Trump, somebody who has a very particular vision about how the country should look and run and is completely devoid of any of that moral, emotional intelligence that we feel like we need in these moments of tragedy. So I'm like, I want to correct for that problem as well, not just the policy pieces.
One of the big issues that I see for sure, and I can't figure this out, I really want to know what you think, is for all of the debates, I don't know if it happened last night, but for the first round and then this round of debates, the Democrats, when it comes to immigration and health care, there's this idea of this question about, will you provide undocumented people with health care? And at least maybe I'm misinterpreting this, but basically what we're hearing from all the candidates is the answer yes. And I don't think I support that. What I support is affordable access for anybody, citizen or not. The Republicans would not allow government under the Affordable Care Act to sell insurance to undocumented people, which is insanely stupid. Because if you're a right wing conservative and you hated
make the money, just make money. Yeah,
make money. Like, why would you not sell an undocumented person a beer, a T-shirt, and specifically, why wouldn't you want them to have health insurance so you don't have to pay for them if you get in an accident or they go to the emergency room for care? So, but what I'm hearing is them saying, yeah, we will cover undocumented people. And I don't know, maybe this is a little conservative sounding of me, which was very rare, but I think that people who are here that are, part of the system, that are citizens, we can't provide health care for just anybody who wants to come in, but we have to do our best to provide affordable health insurance to American citizens first, I think.
Yeah, I think it's and any of the health insurance fixes are going to have to be incremental, right? Like, where do you start? Like, it's not going to be you flip a switch and the next day suddenly everybody's covered, because you can give people official coverage, but if you haven't worked in the back end the supply, meaning who are all these nurses and doctors? How are they going to be treating these folks? How does all of that work? You're going to end up with 2-year waiting lists. So that's a problem that I don't think. Yes, start with citizens, work your way through, figure out what's the best way so that taxpayers aren't paying for emergency room healthcare costs for everybody. I will say this: just because you're undocumented does not mean you're not paying taxes.
Well, right, yeah.
Right, that's the thing. So, if you are paying taxes, you may be undocumented, but you have a job, you are paying, your taxes are being taken out of it, then yes, I think you're entitled to get something for those taxes.
Let me ask you a question.
That's the employer who is working the shenanigans of let me have somebody undocumented, and that's on the employer, not on the individual who's I'm giving in hard work, I'm putting in my money. That legal status is on the employer to verify and deal with. The third part is Donald Trump is kind of trying to do this to Canada. The whole idea of we'll make it okay for people to somehow figure out how people can go to Canada to get prescription drugs. Be like, dude, those are the Canadians who are paying 30% tax to get drugs and everything so cheap. You're trying to screw Canadians so that you don't have to get in a fight with Big Pharma.
Oh, that's a really interesting framing of it. And I've just started to read about that policy, so I really don't know.
Yeah, it's a thing that everyone gets excited about. They're oh, great, I can drive through. If you're in Michigan, you can drive to Windsor, do all this stuff and come back. I'm like, yeah, but look at what's underneath this. It's literally him avoiding dealing with the problem in the U.S.
I want to ask you a question, a personal-ish question about character and personality. Earlier, we were having a long debate with a hardcore Trump supporter, and he said something effective, "I'm never ashamed of what I do and say." And I instantly reacted with, "That's horrible. I'm often ashamed of what I do or say." And it fit into this kind of archetype of what I at least think about a Trump supporter, because how could you support a man who has no shame? And I thought that phrase, "have you no shame," or "you should have shame," I thought I knew what that meant, and I thought we had agreement on that. Nayyera, isn't it good to feel shame and to be ashamed of things you say and do sometimes? Don't you feel that way as a parent, much less a wife?
Yes. Oh my God. I feel I make mistakes, and the most important thing I can do is acknowledge them and do better. And the people that are most difficult to work with in work setting, in personal life, are the ones who, when you point something out to them, they get defensive, right? They're literally psychologically incapable of recognizing that there may be something they need to fix. I don't know if it's fear or whatever. They get
I have
very
that problem. I
defensive.
do that way too much. I freely admit to that. It's not a good quality. I completely agree.
And you're like, it's something
defensiveness.
To try to work on.
Mm-hmm.
To try to work on it, and I get that. I'm like, I just need to know people are working to be better, because otherwise, what's the point? Seriously, you're just like in the world, walking around to just be the same person for the next 60 years. That sounds boring and unproductive, and just you're missing out on so much. It reminds me of that guy who, I guess CNN or whatever, went into the diner and he's like, I just want to stop telling me about the kids. Stop telling me about the kids. And just it's all illegal.
Child
and
separation.
they shouldn't do it. Yeah, just shouldn't do it. They shouldn't be coming here. It's illegal. And just stop telling me about the kids. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Did you feel an emotion there? Did you feel bad? And suddenly you just don't know how to deal with feeling bad. Yeah, you don't know how to deal with feeling bad. And so, like, it's your problem.
That's the thing. So also
it's okay
the thing,
to feel bad. Do something with it.
That's also the thing about this idea of being accused of being a racist. That people are very offended by being accused by. It's interesting when people who you and I probably perceive are racist are offended by being called racist. How do you unpack that idea, that behavior?
All right. So that's like the Governor Wallace, said that. He's like, I'm not a racist, and the people who call racists are racist, and I'm anything but a bigot. I'm like, you are literally the grandfather of maintaining desegregation. But okay, it's like become this thing where you're only racist if you're physically violent to somebody. And even then they might find an excuse about I was provoked. And we've just all, I guess in elementary school, been told, like, it's a bad thing to be racist. Don't be racist. Don't stereotype.
Right.
And we've lost the meaning of what that actually means on a day-to-day basis. And that racism there's like a passive version of racism too. And that's what's more difficult for people to unpack and understand, because, again, like, if you call me racist, that means you said I was a Klan member.
Well, you're a brown person. What color are you, would you say?
I'm kind of like veering on orange right now. I feel like
what's happening, son?
I feel like this. So my legs and my arms are a totally different color, and I was trying to like match. And
what happened? What were you wearing outside? No,
I never. It doesn't matter if I wear shorts or a skirt, bathing suit. My legs just like never tan, and so I feel like my legs are like this pale fish color, and I'm like all like golden brown on top, and I try to match it up with these chemicals. And
that's hilarious. Well, I don't know what that says about me if you're pale, but
that's why it's weird, because like I'm not supposed to be pale, like, right, like. All the other visible parts are not, and somehow my legs are like.
Well, I bring it up because
I went from looking like a fish and now I look like a carrot.
I bring it up because we're on radio, but also because I want to ask you my final question here: has anybody ever told you to go back to where you came from?
Yes, and I did not mind it as much as what is directed at me. I minded it when it was my mother, because I'm like, oh, you mean back to the South Shore? Oh, you mean back to Brooklyn? Like, wait, which one? And like, I felt like I, being born and raised here, had a flippant response to that. That was like, oh, no, you're the stupid one. You don't understand what you're saying.
Right.
But it hurt me to hear it from my mom. And it's something that she's heard recently also. And I'm like, guys, she was a public school teacher. She pays her taxes. Like, she's done so much to be a contributing member of society, knows American history, then has these yahoos who are yelling this shit at her. And I'm like, yeah, well,
I just like, by the way, that when you explain that, at least what I heard is you were defending against the person who said to your mother, someone said to your mother, go back to where you came from. And apparently you said, guys, stop that. You guys, stop saying those horrible things. Very thoughtful response. So let me.
Well, I mean, this is stuff again. This is stuff that my mom said to me. I don't know. I have not. She told me about it. I don't live there anymore.
I got it. I didn't really think you responded that way.
Which is the worst part. No, I actually would like to think I would not be that calm in that situation, but
One more candidate, and I'll let you go.
Sure.
Are you an Elizabeth Warren person right now? Where are you? Will you say?
I don't know where I am. Like,
okay.
I like her. I like a lot of what she's bringing to the table. I will vote for my paper cup over Donald Trump person.
Well, yeah.
So I'm kind of like, sure, all right, like, America, just give me something, I'm fine. Really, like, that's where I'm at.
Would you vote for Mario Lopez over Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Would you vote for Howard Stern over Donald Trump?
Oh God, yeah. I don't think
Alex Trebek.
Yes, I don't think any of those people are truly the kind of stupid asshole that Donald Trump is.
Tommy Lahren.
No. No, because I think she's more dangerous with those ideas in a female body than he is in a.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting.
He's also got longevity that he doesn't.
Nayyera, good
he's
point.
He's like one cheeseburger away from, peace out.
Send him a bunch of cheeseburgers. He's probably got them there already. Nayyera Hawk is on Twitter at NAYYEROAR. You should follow her, and I always love when she joins us, and certainly now when she sits in for me. You're the best. Thanks for joining me, my friend. I learned a lot.
Thank you. You're awesome. Thank you.